Hey, so I just finished watching Promising Young Woman, and I'm gonna start with the spoiler-free stuff, and then I'll warn you before I go into spoilers for those who have not seen the movie. But in order to give my full stance on the movie, I'll definitely have to go into spoilers. And, yeah, when I go into the spoiler section, I have a couple of funny things that I want to bring up, before I go into that from before I saw the movie that where I knew more than I should have, and I joked about things that happened in the movie without knowing that I was joking about things that happened in the movie. So, yeah, more on that later. Anyways, first up, also very timely Krusty Krab short shirt because Mr. Krabs, Clancy Brown plays the main character's dad in the movie, so I just wanted to show that off for a second. Uh, I just I thought it was funny that I was wearing that shirt today, on the same day that watched the movie for the first time. I only just saw it now today. So the things I can say without spoiling the movie. I'm gonna not address the plot at all in this section because the movie wants you to not know anything going in. I take it. Because the trailers try to be vague, but they inadvertently gave everything away to me. I literally figured out all of the plot twists, like the big ones, but it was the smaller moments that caught me off guard. So that's all I'll say when it comes to the movie's plot. I still like the direction where that it went, but it could have gone a little bit better. Uh, the characterization is interesting. Uh, I like the contrast between like the bright, cheery colors and the very dark tone that it sets. But yeah, the bright, cheery colors kind of goes with like the comedic side of the movie, and then there's like really dark drama going on, which there's way more of that in the movie than I was expecting. And I'm glad that it focused way more on the dark drama side of things when the colors felt like they were more muted in those scenes. Uh to kind of like get to the point of like that it's a serious topic, but it balances those two things very well. Uh the movie is pretty well written and directed. I really like the cinematography in it. It's definitely a very enjoyable and very engaging movie. It's also very ambiguous and I guess you could say morally gray. It's hard to figure out whether you're supposed to side with or against the main character because I don't want to say it's one of those feminist revenge movies in a similar vein of Hard Candy or Gone Girl, where it's like that level of sinister. It's like a couple steps back where you could see more people saying she's in the right than those characters. But there are a couple of things that she does that feels like a little more like unethical than I was expecting for her character. But I'm glad that was there because I thought it would be cool to go in a direction where she slowly realizes that she's doing things that make her no better than the people she's going after. I always thought that would be a unique arc for this kind of movie. But I thought it would show her like torturing and killing people, but I won't spoil where the plot goes if it does that or not. Again, we're not in the spoiler section. I think I give the movie a 9 out of 10, but I have not rewatched the movie since I first watched it. It might go down, might go up. I don't know. It kind of gives me this whole Once Upon a Time in Hollywood vibe where it's very much feeling withholding, like it's restraining its violence. You feel like violence is happening off screen, and so many like huge events in the story are happening off screen, and it's kind of left to the viewer to interpret whether what they're seeing is straightforward or whether characters are lying about certain things to make their revenge have more of a point to it. But something that's interesting to note is the writer director wanted there to be a point that revenge just doesn't have this satisfying thing to it. But after finishing the movie, like it felt like it satisfied her character and she got what she wanted out of it. So I don't get where the director was coming from with those remarks. I was expecting her to just be kind of depressed at the end of the movie when she ran out of people to target because she doesn't feel satisfied with the thing that was taken from her, which I won't say what was taken from her because spoilers. Uh but yeah, uh I guess I have to go into the spoiler section now. If you've not seen Promising Young Woman, you'll probably want to click off now. But first, I'm gonna go through a couple of jokes and the things that I got spoiled before we go into like my actual experience. So first off, when the first trailer dropped, uh I started coming up with like my own ideas for like first off, have any of you seen VFW, I think it's called? It's like a similar movie, only I believe it was more violent. I had seen that prior to this movie, and it kind of felt like the sort of American it feels like this is the sort of American remake of that sort of movie. But again, I still like my idea of like a downward spiral of the main character where they slowly realize that they're becoming worse than the people they're going after. That's very intriguing to me, especially with like such a taboo subject like this. Which of course is very socially relevant, and you kind of have to be careful with how you approach it because it is a very touchy subject. But yeah. So the one thing that was kind of off-putting about the trailers is, and even the movie itself, is kind of its depiction of male characters. It's not to the point of being Birds of Prey bad. There are a couple of characters that seem to have redeeming qualities. Clancy Brown, for example. You could argue Bo Burnham to an extent, though he's not completely redeemable by the film's end, at least. Uh, but since that twist with Bo Burnham was so predictable from the trailers, with him going like, with them already making you think, all right, he's either a complete psychopath or he's gonna be the one actual nice guy who she can't fully commit to tragically to because she thinks of all the other nice guys who were just trying to rape her, and that just puts her off from ever having any real relationships, which is like good character development. That's like really good character drama right there, and it adds a lot to her character. It adds a lot to like, it makes sure that like it doesn't feel like the writer thinks that all men are bad or that sort of viewpoint. It just adds a lot to the film going that direction, even though that's not the direction they take it. I thought the most surprising way they could have gone was having Bo Burnham turn out to be a pedophile. But they didn't go that way. But I thought that would have been the smartest twist. At once I was getting close to the end of the movie, I was like, I think it would be so smart if the movie did this, because throughout the whole movie he's talking about how he's like a children's doctor. He's like a pediatrician, I think he said. So I was like, oh no, what if he's just doing this to get closer to kids so he can like touch kids, you know? Kind of like how a lot of perverts like are on kids shows because you know they like to touch kids and stuff like that. So I mean, at first I was wondering if they would do a twist where it's like, what if Bo Burnham was just gay the whole time he found out, and that would be a funny twist. It is kind of weird that they got a lot of comedians in the movie as well. But a joke me and my brother made while watching Chaos Walking, which was the last movie we saw in the theaters, which we both reviewed and saw. And anyways, neither of us had seen Promising Young Woman at that time, but we hit the nail on the head with our joke, where there was an ad playing before the movie where these two girls who are not very assertive or anything, and they were just like chit chatting, and then they're like, "Oh, look at this hunky guy over here," and they kind of like menacingly walk towards them with like this sort of like stare. And we both said in unison at the same exact time, promising young woman. And that was like basically this movie in a nutshell, which is kind of hilarious, but also kind of sad that the movie didn't really have any versatility amongst the main male characters. Like, there should have been more characters where it was like she thought they were gonna be like evil rapists, but then they turned out to be fine, like just normal dudes. And then she's like, "Oh crap, I got it wrong. I'm sorry. Never mind." Or she should have had like mess ups like that. Uh, but there weren't scenes like that. There's so much potential with this concept that went unexplored that I thought would have added a lot of depth to not only like the characters, but also the drama, and like not only adding personality to the movie, but like just to show range in the characters instead of it feeling all kind of more one note. But what we got is still good. It's the best out of all the Best Picture nominees I've seen so far. It's the only one I've really liked so far. So I guess I'm rooting for this one. I mean, I might really like Minari too. I probably will. Uh, yeah, I need to see that one for sure. Uh, what else is there to comment on? Some of the ambiguous things I was talking about were like, so she totally killed the dude at the beginning, right? Because she had blood on her clothing. That was one ambiguous thing. Another ambiguous thing is, she takes like the daughter of that one lady, and we don't see what happens to her. But then when she talks to the mom, she's like, "Oh, don't worry. I didn't rape her. I mean, I didn't leave her with these guys to rape her or anything like that. I'm not that much of a monster, but I still got the impression like that she did it, but like she's very much like she lies to people about doing it because she doesn't want to accept that she's as bad as these other people are, because she does that like 3 times in the movie, I swear, and then she lies about it afterwards. Because I mean, she locks the lady in her car, which is like, and they even have a huge done musical sting with it too, so that's really obvious. It's not subtle at all whenever they do those huge thuds. And it happens again when she gets this other lady drunk. And then it's very ominous when she's like, all right, I'm going to pay this guy to do something with this woman. And it's like Alison Brie's character. And it's the same situation where she's like, "Oh no, don't worry. I didn't pay this guy to rape you. I just paid him to carry you into the bed while you were too drunk to know what was happening and lay you in bed and watch over you." And I'm like, I'm pretty sure you paid him to have sex with her even though he didn't know that she was drunk, which is basically rape again. So she's basically a surrogate rapist herself. So she's really not as good as, she's really just as bad as these other people. Like, most of the people that she goes after are like these one-time rapists, but she's like an actual like surrogate serial rapist, which is interesting. It's just like the guys are usually more thought of as like rapists, and that label doesn't usually come onto women because, it's more of a power thing, I guess, for guys. I don't know. I also, another joke that me and my brother were making where, my brother was like, "What if you just went to go see this movie with your girlfriend for Valentine's Day, and then after the movie, she was just like, so are you really a nice guy or just one of these promising young woman nice guys?" Which was also a pinpoint accurate joke that he made because, it does kind of have that notion that like all nice guys are secretly racist rapists, which is pretty much offensive if that's what her really her viewpoint is, the writer of the movie, and if that's what she's trying to get everyone to believe. Because that was what I thought was the whole point of having like the Bo Burnham character was like, oh, see, there's at least one nice guy in here to show that they're not all like misogynistic rapists. But and then it turns out like, oh no, they're all just at least somewhat monsters. But then it kind of turns out everyone in the movie is a monster, more or less. So it's just kind of like, all right, so there's no one to root for in the movie. Got it. I mean, I kind of got that vibe once you got to the ending party scene. Also, I got spoiled for me that the main character died, but I honestly predicted that the moment I saw in the trailer that she was going after like a serial rapist. I was like, he's totally gonna overpower her and kill her, isn't she? Isn't he? And that's what the strong violence, including assault in the rain, is. And yep, definitely. But there wasn't really any on-screen violence in the movie, so I don't know why that was in the rain. It's just kind of weird. Yeah, I think that's everything I want to talk about with the movie. That was a good movie. Definitely has a lot of flaws, but yeah, that's my review.